Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Before I begin today, a big thank you to Reclusiarch Ali for the virtual gift voucher. Big thank you my friend for the support, it is truly appreciated, thank you. But on to today. Today we discuss the Black Templars as they investigate the mystery of a lost pilgrimage fleet and board the depths of a space hulk. Spoiler warning to begin, as the events we are discussing today are from the short story The Black Pilgrims by Guy Haley. As always, I really recommend you read the story for yourself first, as that's the best way to enjoy the lore for yourself. Not only that, we help to support the great Games Workshop and Black Library, because without them we don't have this amazing lore to talk about. I will put a link in the description as always. But with that said, let's just jump straight in. Okay, so this particular story takes place in the far reaches of the system known as Goshan, where the space hulk known as the Veritas Diraz has emerged from the warp after a 3-century-long absence. And aside from the fact we all know I love a good space hulk story, the interesting difference here is the Veritas was part of a pilgrimage fleet. Now, a pilgrimage fleet is a vast fleet of ships easily numbering into the hundreds, which crusade out into the depths of the Imperium, bringing the Emperor's light and prayer to the countless worlds lost within the vastness of the empire of humanity. And these pilgrims, or religious crusade fleets if you will, have populations numbering into the millions. Millions of devoted, worshipping, loyal men and women of the God Emperor. Yet of this expected gargantuan fleet, only the Veritas remains, with a couple of smaller vessels caught within its gravity pull, none of which display any forms of activity. We've all heard of Space Marine Chapter crusades before, but a pilgrimage fleet is an idea I have never heard of before, at least not in true detail. And I just think this is a fascinating premise. How has this not been used in a novel series before? The scope for ongoing storytelling would be brilliant. A pilgrimage fleet departing for the Imperium Nihilus, determined to bring the Emperor's light once more across the darkness of the Great Rift. I would definitely read that story. Not Space Marines, not Astra Militarum, just loyal men and women of the Emperor of mankind. But back to the story. The Veritas is a literal city-sized floating cathedral, with all the grandeur you would expect from such a monumental undertaking. Over 7 million tons of rock and metal, sculpted and carved into the glorious images of the Emperor and his saints. Vast towers and rainbow stained windows, all the pomp and circumstance you'd expect from the ecclesiarchy. But as this now graveyard floats lifelessly within the void, 3 ships of the Black Templars circle this apparent mausoleum, searching for life, damage, clues, anything that may give some hint as to the Veritas's fate. But none comes. There's no sign of any damage at all. Certainly nothing to explain its disappearance within the warp for 300 years. And nothing from its smaller escorts either. Castellan Adelard, leader of the Templars expedition, listens as his men banter their theories back and forth. Brother Morholt is certain the vessel's holiness would have been enough to protect it from the worst the warp could offer. Whereas Brother Roland, on the other hand, claiming its pristine condition is a sure sign of demonic incursion. And he's so sure of it, he lays a wager with brother Urkus, who thinks the Xeno filth, known as the Gene Stealers, are the likely culprit. The vessel has been placed in lockdown. All entry points are sealed, and Dolus, the Templars' Forge Master, can only access them once aboard the ship. Whatever fate befell the Veritas, it most definitely came from inside. So, not to be undone, selecting the quietest boarding entrance aboard the Hulk, Adelard orders his shuttle to career straight through one of the almighty stained glass windows, the melter guns making short work of the plasteel shutters beneath. With his fellow two shuttles following inside after and landing nearby, the Templars disembark into the ruined remains of the chapel, Adelard intoning that they shall perform 13 days' worth of penance for their desecration of the Emperor's work. But first, the mission. Establishing a perimeter and ordering the Forge Master to commune with the machine's spirit, Adelard and his 5 Terminator-armoured sword brethren advance into the darkness of the corridors ahead. The sword brothers lumbered through the echoing corridors, their backs swaying. They pushed on past chapel after chapel, thoroughly checking each for the presence of evil. They found none, only the stone faces of saints glaring in their torchlight. The squad flicked through their numerous sensor arrays. Infrared overlays gave them nothing but the chill of forgotten landscapes, while echolocators sketched funeral monuments in sound. Motion trackers caught only their own progress. Their armoured boots clanged obscenely loudly in the silence, maglocks clamping hard where the gravity gave out. Truly, said Malice, this place of devotion has become naught but a tomb. Major Lord of the Rings and Mines of Moria vibes with that line. This is no mine, it is a tomb. Ah, Boromir, you legend. There's just something about Terminators advancing through the depths of a Space Hulk that is so iconic. Last time we discussed the Sisters of Battle and their own experiences within the Space Hulk's dark halls, and how evocative the image of their singing of hymns could be, echoing out into the darkness. But here, with the Templars, so symbolic to be aboard essentially a gargantuan cathedral, they and they alone of all the Space Marine chapters could appreciate its majesty, and in turn conjure the image of the holy warriors intent on redemption. They came at last to a set of great plasteel doors, every inch chased in gold depicting scenes from the Emperor's life. The Space Marines halted in front of it, awed by its beauty. They muttered quick prayers and brought their weapons up to their faceplates. Sealed, said Urkus, who had recovered quicker than the rest. The mechanisms are dead. Their spirits fled. He rejoined his brothers. Terminator plate was clumsy and cumbersome. Its heavy plating and restrictive range of movement made most wearers ungainly. Yet, somehow, Urkus managed to remain graceful. Adelard fought out his suit's cogitator, commanding it to capture every square centimetre of the door. The Black Templars will recreate this object. This I swear. I shall do it myself if needs be. A good oath, brother, said Godwyn. A necessary one. Now, break it down. With the Forge Master apologising to the machine spirit of the Hulk, assuring it that whoever was responsible for the actions the Templars must now take, they will face the Emperor's wrath. Godwyn's thunderhammer pulverises the door before them, and once more the Templars advance into the dark. Reaching the central nave, which ran the full length of the hulk, kilometers long, and so high its reaches were not even visible. But here, they begin to come across the first signs of the Veritas's fate. Dead cherubim, heaped in a pile. Someone, or something at least, had performed the act. Brother Urkus, now certain his proclamation of gene stealers was proving correct. Voxing back to Dolus for a status update, the Forge Master informs his commander the progress is slow. The machine spirits are sluggish to rouse, and considering the size of the vessel, I don't think we could blame him for that one. But still, he manages to activate power at least to the squad's area. A scattering of lights flickering to life as the brothers brace for an attack that never came. Whoever lays in wait aboard the hulk has not revealed themselves yet. But then, a reading. Power and active systems up ahead. Whatever Dolus had activated, it had given Adelard the first solid reading, and a target for his squad's advance. Reaching the area identified, the squads enter into the deepest part of the vessel yet, breaching a doorway elaborately adorned with carvings of saints from the Imperium's past. And beyond it lay a carpet of bones. The sheer quantity of them would equal thousands of dead, crushed to dust beneath the treads of the Terminators. And an interesting difference here. While many Space Marine chapters may continue on heedless, and others would maybe recognise the loss, the Templars stop to give prayer. And it's an interesting difference to other chapters, and indeed the Templars themselves that we have seen in other stories. In Hell's Reach, for example, quite possibly the most famous of all Black Templar stories, most of the Black Templars' attitude towards the baseline humans is one of outright contempt. Yet here, we see a contrasted difference. Of course, it could be due to the vastly different situations. One, a siege warfare against the odds. The other, a mysterious investigation. Either way, it's an interesting insight to the Templars that we are not always given. "Can you hear something?" asked Roland. "Yes, brother," said Malice. "Singing." Adelard concentrated. His suit's aural sensors increased the gain, sifting through near inaudible sounds. He caught it too. A hymnal. "Perhaps they have not perished after all," said Urkus. Perhaps Morholtz was right, and the vessel was protected. Praise be to the Golden Throne if so. Godwin panned his suit lamps down at the floor, having to lean his entire torso forward to do so. A graceless movement in Terminator plate. "Your first guess was better," he said. "Look." Amidst the bones, Godwin's torchlight picked out a horror. A skull. Not entirely human. Although the bones of its face bore the features of the Children of Terror, it grew nobbled and brutish towards the back. "See? Gene stealers," said Urkus, unable to keep the self-satisfaction from his voice. Roland clicked the Vox once, too annoyed to vocalise his acknowledgement. The Sword Brothers' equipment whined as they initiated combat protocols, bringing their suit's machine spirits to full awareness. Weapons raised, they followed the source of the song. Following the audio trail, the Templars continue deeper in, the signs of death and life increasing. The bones on which they now walk, holding traces of rotting skin and tissue, skeletons pinned to the walls, and candles now illuminating the dark. Crossing a final doorway, they enter the final chapel, and the singing stops. A righteous preacher glares at the entering Templars from the pulpit of the room, and the congregation of worshippers follows his gaze. Yellow eyes, misshapen heads, and snarling voices. The preacher at first speaks to the newcomers, claiming to be faithful to the Emperor, and that it is the Templars who are the blasphemers, and it is they who will be destroyed. Wasting no more time, the congregation attacks, with the preacher bellowing out his religious words across the din, fueling the fervour of the cult. Adelard merely orders his men to kill them all. No pity, no remorse, no fear. "Suffer not the unclean to live," his squad reply, and they unleash on the Xeno-hybrid filth, purging the chapel in the name of the true Emperor, until only the preacher remains. And testament to the fervour of the alien, he remains defiant, agreeing to Adelard's demands to take him to his Emperor, only so that he may witness the true light. And obviously this is an ambush, and the Templars are fully aware of that, but they get what they want, and that's to find the broodlord of the cult. Following the half-breed preacher, they enter into a vast catacomb, containing piles and piles of bones. Most certainly, the true remains of the former loyalist crew. And atop the central vast pyramid of bone sits the broodlord himself, a massive ancient gene stealer, at least twice the size of any of the Templars, even within their Terminator plate. Or as the preacher claims him, the Emperor upon his golden throne. And that comment is enough for Adelard to put his fist straight through the preacher's skull. Wasting no more time, he orders the Templars to attack. Gene stealers, pure strain this time, erupt from all around the squad. Adelard charges towards the beast, his mind rallying against the psychic assault of the broodlord. Faith in the true Emperor will see him through. Abhor the witch. Storm shield in one hand, thunderhammer in the other, Adelard lays his challenge to the beast, as his squad set about purifying the rest of the Xeno filth. Adelard could spare no glance to his men as he engaged the enemy, having to trust in their skill at arms that it would be enough to see them through despite the odds. Ignoring the alarm in his helm, which alerted him to one of his men's vitals spiking. The broodlord was fast, almost impossibly so for its size, and its strength easily a match for Adelard's Terminator armour. But Adelard was relentless, and persevered through the monster's attacks, bringing his hammer up into the broodlord's chin, pressing his advance further still before it could react. And it's a great little fight, with Adelard shouting his dedications to the true master of mankind as he hammers into the foe. No pun intended. And despite a grievous wound to his side, inflicted by the broodlord's claws, he simply will not be denied, countering the broodlord's next blow and following up with one more of his own, once more rounding the thunderhammer into the beast's skull, obliterating it with a flash of light and gore. The broodlord was dead, and the kill count by his squad was ever increasing. The purging would continue, but one thing was certain: the Veritas Diraz would belong to the Black Templars. Man, I love me some Space Hulk stories. I really wish we would get more full-length ones. Don't get me wrong, these short stories are fantastic reads, especially this one. But in only numbering around a dozen pages, it's over all too soon. You really want the mystery to continue, for the Templars to be drawn into the mystery even deeper, descending ever more into the depths of the Hulk, until the true enemy is finally revealed. But as it is, this short story was a fantastic little read, and I really do recommend it, especially if you're a fan of the Templars. It's definitely one of the better Black Templar short stories I've come across, showing them in a different light to what we usually see, like I said earlier. And I have to be honest, my money was on a demonic incursion, at least earlier on in the story. And I think that could have been a good change to the usual Gene Stealer enemy. However, like I said, don't get me wrong, this is still a great little read. And on that note, it really would be interesting to see a Space Hulk story with a different enemy altogether. Maybe Necrons within the depths of a Hulk, or even perhaps Tau or Eldari. I'd love to read those slight little twists on the standard Space Hulk theme. But as always guys, what did you think of it? Are you a fan of the Black Templars? And do you enjoy seeing them in a mission such as this, as opposed to the usual charge across the battlefield? And what is your opinion about the Templars stopping to give prayer? A nice highlight into the mindset of the chapter? Or do you see it as out of character? As always, drop your thoughts in the comments below, I love to read them. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support really means a lot to me, it truly does. And if you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.